Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the Mike Israetel Making Progress channel. Today's video is number 83, 10 ways how smarter people think so you can too. Sounds preposterous. Might have some stuff there that is a little bit wise. So there is a lot of variation in how people think in every way that you can imagine. And that variation isn't cut just down the axis of less intelligent people and more intelligent people at all. There are creativity dimensions. There are 10 trillion other ways in which people think that have nothing to do with intelligence. And it is actually quite often true that less sharp, less intelligent people are way more wise than very intelligent people. Often a way that happens is if you give me a brilliant 18-year-old and a totally dull 65-year-old, that 65-year-old has years of wisdom built up that an 18-year-old can't work halfway through until they're maybe in their 30s. So sometimes less intelligent people, for many, many reasons, are wiser than more intelligent people. Another way is people who are intelligent, who sort of find out about it because they always score at the top of their class, everyone tells them they're smart, they have a degree of intellectual hubris that outpaces their ability to make logical assessments. They know they're smart, so they think they're always right, because in school they're always right, and then they get out of the real world and they're wrong a lot, and they have too much confidence so they can't backtrack. People who are less intelligent often have a humility about their intelligence, which means that they take problems on and work through them more carefully, more slowly, and end up getting more right in the long term. There's tons of ways in which that happens. However, on average, by a moderate margin, smarter folks do, in fact, have ways in which they think that differ from less smart folks. And a lot of these ways are advantageous on their own. And we could have just said better ways to think, but because smarter people tend to, on average, make better decisions and have better outcomes in almost any endeavor, on average, we can look at 10 ways at least in which smarter people think. And what we can do with that at minimum is no matter how smart you are listening to this or watching to this, you can upgrade your own thinking at least a little bit by seeing how the brainiacs think through things and getting a little bit of a gem of wisdom to plug into your overall way of thinking that'll just make you come to more correct conclusions more often, make stupid mistakes less often on the margins. And of course, that's objectively a much better way to go through life. And before I get to this list, I got to tell you, this was made through the OpenAI suite of products, including GPT, at that time 4.0. Now I use 4.5 Research Preview, which is awake and alive and introspective and amazing and beautiful. And I used Deep Research as well, which is their science tailored product, which is unbelievable, by the way. So don't just assume I made these up. I'm not smart enough to tell you how smart people think. I'm sure shit not introspective enough. And I'm really quirky also. So if I told you this is how I think and I'm smart, so you should think like this too, maybe it's just I'm weird. I think like this and nothing to do with being smart. So I studied quite in depth this topic. And basically the insight there is this is very close to ground truth in my opinion, over huge, huge samples of insight, both from formal publications, because psychologists have studied this over the years, online interactions, and from the AI's perspective. For example, ChatGPT talks to hundreds of millions of people every week. That is a big deal. And it's been doing this for several years now. So it has aggregated a lot of understanding about what do less intelligent, more intelligent people typically express themselves as, how do they think, and what can we take away? So this is a similar lecture to if I was to say 10 ways pro athletes train that you could incorporate into your own training. There's not a one-to-one, and pro athletes do a lot of wacky shit. And sometimes they do stuff that only works for pro athletes. But there's something about how pro athletes train, maybe 10 things that you could really take home with you and be like, that's really good. Maybe they plan out their training and don't just kind of wing it, a little more than average. So pro athletes are good at sports. Smart people are good at thinking. Thinking is really valuable. So let's get into the 10 ways in which smarter people, statistically on average, from multiple studies and chats with AI, have been found to think that might benefit you. None of these, or take it 100%, all of this, as everything on this channel, just a little bit of food for thought. All right. Number one. And again, these are averages. So if you reply in the comments to saying, well, I know a smart person that doesn't think like this, you're both completely correct. And I'm joking when I say this, a little bit of light humor. You should never bother to say it because it's already implied with on average. Scott, I was on Dr. Mike, the real Dr. Mike. He posted a thing he was doing where he was debating people live face to face on social media. It was really cool. And one of the topics that came up was like sunscreen or something like that.
Yeah.
And, he's like, yeah, sunscreen on average is better to put on than not because otherwise you get a burn and you get skin cancer. And this one nice young lady in the comments, we'll call her that, she just commented, well, my uncle or whatever, he's like, he died at 85 and he worked all his life in the sun. He never got sun cancer a single time. And he accredited all of his health, and he was incredibly healthy up until the end. Until the day he died, he credited his sun exposure for that, and it had like 1,000 likes. And I was just like, I'm going to go into a dark room and hurt myself. Where are you accounting for the hundreds of thousands of people that skin cancer maimed and killed? My God. Like the selection bias there was just like.
It's a sample size of one. I'm buying it.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough.
I'm exactly like your uncle and I'll have exactly the same luck. It just, the fact that you thought you learned something from that was just like, to me, like, wow, we really do need to make people smarter on average, don't we? Like,
yes.
That lady's a real person. She votes, I'm sure, and all that good stuff. So, all right. Number one, more intelligent people, on average, tend to be less biased. How does this look? Less intelligent people are often, though not always, more prone to wishful thinking, to superstition, and to tribal beliefs. Let's talk about those three things by themselves really quick. Wishful thinking. You want something to be true, so you just kind of assume it is. You want Stacy to like you. She kind of turns in your direction and smirks and then walks off. You're like, I knew it. Now, maybe she was looking at the guy behind you. Maybe she just recognized you from math class and she liked that you helped her once. She doesn't like you at all. Wishful thinking is when you want something to be true and you end up just being like, I believe it. The problem is it might not be true. So because you want something to be true, there's actually no bearing on if it's true or not. That is an empirical reality out in the world that you have to assess in its own due process. And it's also true to say, and I would say my favorite economist and one of my favorite philosophers, Brian Kaplan, has said that the heuristic he applies to his own mind and his own dealings is exactly the stuff I feel more passionate about is exactly the stuff I trust myself less with, which is super backwards, but it really is the case. So wishful thinking means that if you want something to be true, it's probably more true. It doesn't mean it's less true. It means it's just how much you want something to be true is no bearing on if it's true or not. Superstition, right? Like I got to put on my green shoelaces before I play in a basketball game because last time I did it, it worked. Like, what is the mechanism by which green shoelaces could possibly make you better at basketball? There is no mechanism, and we know more than this. We know from what we know about the universe now, there's probably no mechanism like that. So superstition, if it's harmless, is probably okay. It doesn't help you curate the best world model in your head because it poisons your mind, just low-key, a little poison, just one shot of vodka a day kind of poison, with things that are just like causatively impossible. And so less intelligent people tend to be more superstitious, and a lot of superstitions kind of waste a lot of time. I'll put this together. Wishful thinking plus superstition means when you put your rabbit's foot in your pocket and you go to the casino, your bitch ass is going to lose all that money every fucking time. So bad news. Another one is tribal beliefs. Tribal beliefs are that if everyone else believes it makes us who we are and it makes us united. And if you have other beliefs, you had better shut the fuck up about them because that ain't it. And tribal beliefs include religious beliefs, beliefs about superiority of various groups or others, which is sometimes true and sometimes not true. But it's in-group, out-group thing. Like the group thinks this, so I should think this. Smart people fall for the shit all the time. But less intelligent people fall for the shit way more. On the other hand, what about more intelligent people? More intelligent people have a higher probability of being very interested in the ground truth. Like, what's the actual reality? Someone says, oh, my uncle benched 800 pounds. And you're like, yeah, he's a great guy. I met him. We had beers together. Of course I believe him. Like, up. A smarter person would be like, I want to believe. But other than Julius Maddox, I don't think anyone's ever benched 800. Last I checked the powerlifting websites. I want to believe. I do. But I want to believe literally is a detector for wishful thinking. That's you admitting you have wishful thinking. You can see that you have wishful thinking. You can feel it operating in your mind. You can, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look, what is the ground truth? I'm going to do my research and be like, oh shit, JK, your uncle benched 400 in high school, which was nice. But he didn't do any more than that. And it's just not true that this happened. Ground truth and a familiarity with it is one of the most important philosophical ways of understanding you could ever curate in your mind. Because at the end of the day, reality is always and everywhere unforgiving. And it is always and everywhere a very good idea for you to know what reality really looks like. And ground truth is another way of saying what's actually occurring. Smarter people tend to be much more concerned with that. A politician says, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. What's the ground truth? Before we go anywhere, before I believe them or whatnot. On this topic, smarter people are better on average at, though not perfect, at rejecting comforting falsehoods. There are a lot of comforting falsehoods. All ethnicities are equally talented at all things genetically. It's nice. It's nice, you guys. I want to believe. But Scott, give me a list of the world's best Jewish NFL players.
Oh, my.
Ew.
Oh, my.
Hey, Harry Finkelstein. He was the best. He ran back and forward. Things you're not even supposed to do. He reinvented the game. Hey. So there are a lot of falsehoods that are comforting. Here's another one. How you look doesn't play into how people treat you. There are people who believe that. It's nice to believe. Bullshit. Here's another one. People's talents don't have much to do with how they do in life. It is how society treats you that really results in how you end up. It's comforting because we know that if we just re-architect society, everyone's going to do great. But some people just aren't good at some stuff. Like if you took me and you were like, Mike could be an artist. He could be an excellent fine artist, a painter, if we just trained him up. I tried, fellas. I tried my whole childhood. Nonsense. Only nonsense comes out of these hands when I'm trying to draw. I can't even draw a straight line or fucking forget about a circle. That's goddamn calculus. I don't know. Then I have a lot of creativity in my brain, but I cannot put it pen to paper. It's just not going to work. Whereas other people at age 6, they're making like pictures of cats that look like actual cats. I'm like, the hell do you do that? For me, Scott, for me, it is dependable that if you ask me to draw an elephant, a cat, or a dog, they're going to look identical. And sorry, I'm giving myself too much credit. I can't make pictures that look identical ever. They're going to look stochastic, and you won't be able to tell which one I was trying to draw. So it's comforting for me to believe that like, well, it doesn't matter what talents I have. I can always train up and do whatever I want. That's just not true. And so if you feel comforting falsehoods are an yin and yang with wishful thinking, it's almost the same thing. More intelligent people are very interested in accepting comforting truths, but rejecting comforting falsehoods, not because of the fact that they're comforting. They love rejecting falsehoods that are uncomfortable, but rejecting falsehoods is the big thing there. So less bias, big deal. Mind you, at any level of intelligence that you, the listener and the viewer, have right now, you can be less biased by being aware of when you feel like, I really want this thing to be true, walking back and going, okay, clean a slate. Is it really true? Number 2, more intelligent people tend to exhibit longer-term strategic thinking. Another way to phrase this is strategic conscientiousness, longer-term thinking, which means what? Less intelligent people on average can be more impulsive, more short-term pleasure-seeking, and are very bad at risk assessment. What do those things mean? Impulsive means I feel like doing this thing now, I do it now. I want a drink, I have a drink. I want a cheeseburger, I have a cheeseburger. Short-term pleasure seeking means that you're interested in how good you're going to feel today. You're not so interested in how that's going to affect you tomorrow. You can insert about 50 trillion examples of that in every walk of life. Bad risk assessment is very true, but it almost gives too much credit. I'll tell you how. Bad risk assessment assumes you're trying to render a risk assessment. If someone's like, hey, do you want to jump on my four-wheeler with no helmet and just go around the block a few times up and down in the rain? If you're like, hell yeah, it's going to be fun, and impulsively I feel like doing it, you're just getting on and riding, and you crack your skull open and they end up cleaning you off the driveway. But what you never did during a single point of that was render a risk assessment at all. When less intelligent people do render risk assessments, they don't do as good of a job as more intelligent people. So and a less intelligent person is like, that looks pretty risky, but I think it's not too risky, but in reality, it's really risky. The problem is a lot of people of lower intelligence and especially lower conscientiousness, and those two tend to align quite closely in most cases, is the fact that they just don't render a risk assessment at all. The ultimate arbiter of this, or the ultimate example is the term, what were you thinking? And the reality is, in many cases, people that take egregious risks, fail spectacularly, pay huge costs. The question of what were you thinking, it results in a null finding. You're asking the wrong question. The real question to ask those folks is, what were you feeling? And they're feeling like gusto and charisma, and that was impulsivity, like I got to do this now and it's going to be fun. That's what less intelligent people do more on average. More intelligent people typically prioritize delayed gratification more, not for its own sake in some weird Catholic way. Catholics, no offense, you guys are great. And it is a very religious experience to purposefully delay gratification just to be able to have more self-control and find peace within, 100%. But it's not for that necessarily intelligent people do it, though that is an option. Delaying gratification means it's just not time yet to get the money out of the bank. If you're able to delay gratification, you're able to do more difficult things for longer, which usually means you can build systems and structures that generate amazing things for you. For example, you don't get paid in college. As a matter of fact, you just lose money. But if you can delay your gratification of getting paid by 4 years, after 4 years of college, you start getting the big bucks because now you're a career person with a degree and everything like that. That is a big example of how delaying gratification in many instances really works out super well. Another thing intelligent people do better is system level planning. Not just, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go here. Planning out how the system is going to work and then executing the plan. For example, you can train jujitsu in two extreme ways, ends of a spectrum. One is I go in, I do the practice, I leave. I just roll around, I do moves, something's going to happen. The other way is, okay, I'm going to have a phase where I introduce my body to basic fundamental techniques. Then I'm going to have a phase in which I start doing more integrated positions. Then I'm going to have a phase in which I do more live rolling, the whole thing all together. I use all three of these strategies the entire time, but I weave them in so that one is more predominant and the other is less predominant over time. That's a system. Intelligent people build systems, and systems are the things that for anything you want out of life, systems will do it better than YOLOing it. That's why more intelligent people tend to have more success. Number 3, this is one as a trip. Compassion with boundaries is something that intelligent people do more than less intelligent people. Another way to say this is optimized altruism. What does that mean? Less intelligent people tend to often be kind of bimodal. Some of them, in some cases, are brutally selfish. And others of them, in other cases, are indiscriminately altruistic, which is to say gullible, right? Either you just throw the middle finger to all poor people. Yeah, see? Get out of my way. I'm not on my way to a business meeting. See? You poke them with the cane because they're in the street, spill your coffee on them. Or you donate all of your money to the homeless shelter, even though it's being embezzled by the pastor who runs it because he's a pedophile. Ta-da! In either case, you're not thinking through the process a whole lot. More intelligent people, on average, tend to be a little bit more altruistic, though not by a ton, but significantly more altruistic. But plenty of psychopaths among intelligent people, no doubt, but when they're helping people, they tend to want to help people strategically. For example, instead of giving a homeless person who's clearly not low in body weight money for quote unquote food, which really everyone knows is for heroin, intelligent people are more likely to invest in charities and non-governmental programs and governmental programs that have some kind of process by which they take poorer people, help them in a means-tested way to assess the fact that, is this help doing better? Are they actually getting the help they need? Are they getting the support that they're supposed to be? Are they doing well with it? How do we assess and reassess and actually help people down the line? So sometimes when smarter people are a little bit reticent to give like just charity, just money out of the pocket, people be like, oh, look at that selfish ass. But it's not because they're selfish. They could be, but it's because they know that just giving money probably means that person is just going to buy drugs, which 95% of the time is just what it's going to be used for. And people who are less intelligent tend to sometimes be brutally selfish in a way that more intelligent people at least know in public doesn't come off right. But sometimes when they're really altruistic, they're very gullible about it. They're like, this will be great. I'm helping someone. Here's this money. And it's like, you're actually not helping them other than in the very short term, which because of short-term thinking, less intelligent people often think, hey, what's wrong with that? Next one, number 4, big deal. More intelligent people tend to have low emotional reactivity, which means they peruse their lives with more stoicism, or otherwise known as kind of equanimity, which is a term I like a lot. Less intelligent people more often take offense easily, which means you come at someone all wrong. They're not trying to figure out like, hey, what did you actually say? Or just let it slide. They're going to be in your face about it. They lash out, especially if they're frustrated. They're very quick to get a super high temper. And a lot of times they're very ego-driven in a very obvious way. More intelligent people tend oftentimes to seek to understand rather than to react emotionally. More intelligent people have an emotional reaction just the same inside their head, but they go, okay, I can't just say this to someone because I know how that goes. They'll get pissed. I'm pissed. We're in a fight inside of a Walmart. No one wins. I want to be like, hey, I'm sorry. I think I was the next in line. Did you kind of want to? And then all of a sudden the person's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they move their car out of the way and boom, problem solved. Whereas a person who is less intelligent is more likely to be a bit more likely to take offense and lash out and ego-driven. So if you cut your cart in front of them, then they'd be like, move your shit or I'm going to bust your fucking lip open. And you're like, oh, that went from 0 to 100 real fast. Definitely one of those things that, you know, there are many ways in which more intelligent people have a better time of life than less intelligent people. And one of the ways is that less intelligent people just have more interactions with law enforcement and are more often punished and go to jail and all that other stuff. And probably the number one reason for that is because their ability to control their emotions, which all of us have. Look, smart people, just like less intelligent people, when they get cut off in traffic, they have all sorts of vivid thoughts about what they want to do to that other person. Scott, caught off in traffic? What you thinking?
I'm namaste, baby.
Shut the fuck up. Is namaste the brand of like tank that you're driving to shoot them out of the road with?
Yeah, peace be with you, bitch.
Boom. That's right. But less intelligent people are more likely to lash out with those same feelings. And that lashing out, guys, is like 99 times out of 100 is the bad idea and it's going to get you in real deep shit. Number 5. In more intelligent people, on average, more than less intelligent people, really subscribe to mutual benefit over dominance. In other words, win-win thinking versus win-lose thinking. Less intelligent people tend to see the world as there's me and mine, and we're going to get ours at the expense of other people or other beings or whatever. This ends up expressing itself as dominance seeking. Like less intelligent people who are prone to dominance just want to be alpha male, king shit. It's me, baby. To quote Kendrick Lamar, fuck the big 3, it's just big me. I'm not saying he's less intelligent, but he's definitely addressing that sort of attitude. Tribal, it's me and my group, fuck everyone else. Whether it be my family, my neighborhood, my community, my state, my nation, my race, whatever it is, more likely to be tribal. It's not always the wrong thing, but usually when it comes from a bad place, it ends up just screwing you over. And the thinking is often zero sum. If we win, someone else loses. And if someone else is winning, we lose. You can see this with people's antipathy towards billionaires in many cases. There's a huge hatred towards billionaires in society and just rich people in general. And a lot of times they're like, well, those people that much money, then everyone else is losing. Nope. On average, billionaires create more value by an order of magnitude than everyone else. And that means all of society benefits inordinately from their existence. But that requires, like economics and game theory and all this weird shit. And I ain't got time for that. Fuck these billionaires. That's how you end up thinking about it. I'm getting it. Great. I got to be fucking someone over for it. Which means the less intelligent people, as you can probably infer right now, are more likely to choose careers of crime. Because to them, it's like, well, I need this thing and someone else has it and I'm going to get it. Because if they're having it, it's screwing me over. I don't have it because they have it. It entirely misses the phenomenon of net benefit productivity that we should all really be engaged in. More intelligent people see cooperation as the best long-term strategy. Because it is. In almost every case, cooperating is better than competing. One of the number one reasons why I'm almost certain AI is going to be the greatest thing that has ever happened is because once it is super intelligent and starting to make decisions for us, it's going to want to cooperate with us much more than it's going to want to dominate us or be tribal AI versus humans or have zero-sum thinking where we better kill these humans because they've got all the stuff that we need. Most of the people that think AI is going to be, bashing us in the skull with their Terminator boots or whatever are really portraying a very less intelligent way of thinking about systems. And remember, AI is going to be smarter than us. So we're not scared of it if it's not as smart as us, right? So once it's smarter than us, people get really scared. But very intelligent systems almost always, not always, almost always tend to see cooperation as the best long-term strategy. And it's a highly, highly good way of seeing it. And this pays off in many, many ways in your life, in your family, with your friends, in the office, with random people on the street. Mutual love, respect, and cooperation goes way further. Now, not gullible. And we'll get to another point there that's going to reemphasize that. Not gullible, but intelligent, aware, at least first offering to cooperate is usually the best way to go forward. Number 6, efficient resource use is something intelligent people tend to do better than less intelligent people and even prioritize more. Another way to say this is optimization or kind of anti-waste thinking. Less intelligent folks tend to hoard more often. Again, if I get it, it's great. If someone else gets it, bad. They tend to consume inefficiently. Like eat half a burger and instead of like wrapping it up and putting it in the fridge for later, they'll just throw it out. And then later they're like, I have to spend a lot more money on food. And a lot of times less intelligent people kind of give too much credence to brute force. Like if there is someone who is bothering you in the subway, just getting up and punching them right in the face to tell them, get the fuck away from me, sounds a lot better when you're less intelligent. When you're more intelligent, you tend to be pretty obsessed sometimes, or at least concerned with seeking optimal paths. I'm not trying to hoard stuff. I'm trying to ask, how much stuff do I really need? I'm not trying to consume for the purpose of consuming. I'm trying to figure out what is the best way for me to use my resources to get to where I want to go and to get everyone who I'm cooperating with to where they want to go in the best possible way. More intelligent people tend to be more organized, more cleanly. They tend to save and invest more precisely for those reasons. And more intelligent people, on every given, you take a given level of income and wealth, and you see how people vary in intelligence at those incomes and wealths. Same income and wealth, just different intelligence people throughout. See, how are they using their money? More intelligent people will actually have less stuff. Not to say zero stuff, but less stuff. Less intelligent people have way more stuff that they typically don't even use. Scott, the ultimate example of like person who like sort of got rich because daddy was a smart guy and he inherited all the money, like he's going to have like 8 cars, right? 100%. Whereas like the smart person who came up by himself, they're going to have 2 cars, one for him, one for the wife. And be like, why don't you have 8 cars? And then the question automatically to illustrate that intelligence is like, well, why? And there's really no good answer to that question because it's a giant fucking waste. So valuing that efficiency over raw accumulation is a really, really big deal. And stepping away from brute force and valuing more nuanced approach. So if someone's bothering you in the subway, you can say, hey man, now I really don't like what you're doing. Can you please, please, please direct your attention somewhere else? And If it comes to it and they throw hands with you, maybe doing some judo or jiu-jitsu on them and putting them down and maybe even choking them out and dropping them off and then walking off the subway and they wake up like 30 seconds later being like, the fuck happened, versus like just elbows and knees and busting them up. Not to say Muay Thai is less intelligent. Muay Thai is awesome in a street defense situation where you're fighting for your life. Muay Thai is better than jiu-jitsu or judo. But if you don't have to do it, again, efficiency. If you don't have to fuck someone up, don't do it. If you have to fuck someone up, fuck them up. Next one, number 7. This is a big one, huge one. Understanding complexity, not dogma, which is otherwise termed as nuanced thinking, which more intelligent people do on average more than less intelligent people. Less intelligent people tend to often exhibit binary thinking. It's either or, one or the other, 2 options, right? Are Republicans good or bad? Are Democrats good or bad? Do we like Europe or do we hate Europe? Shit like that from a political example. Whereas the reality, usually very graded, somewhere in between and depends. Simplistic thinking. Shit is how it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what if we can make it better? Well, that's complicated. We don't want any of that. Another one is ideological. This is huge. Ideology is a great simplifier, and it makes sense that less intelligent people use it because otherwise it's too complicated to figure out. An ideology is cool in many ways if it gets saying things right, but if it gets things wrong, it ends up being not so great, and you end up paying for it, and society pays for it. Almost every single bad thing that's ever happened in history, as far as political stuff, communism, fascism, you name it, the problem is ideology. That's where that shit starts from. Less intelligent people tend to be more ideological, which means that if the right dictator or the right leader comes up and goes, we need to kill those people, they're like, yeah. And then voila. And watch this, binary thinking at the same time. They're bad people. Really, that people can be split into good and bad? Is that really true? I don't know. More intelligent people, on the other hand, recognize gray areas. Like I've been dealing with a lot of anti-Semitism recently online as it's been getting more popular or YouTube famous or whatever. Which, by the way, Scott is a huge trip. I didn't even know the shit was like, I knew it was real from textbooks and shit, but it hits different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm surprised at it as well.
Yeah.
I think it would just be less.
And I always think these people are going to have like nuanced takes and they just never do. It's really upsetting. But like, like our Jews, because, you get 2 equally unintelligent people. Well, one of them is like, Jews are everything wrong with this world. Like, okay, dope, Nazi, my man. Hitler had some dope fashion, I'll give you that. And then, on the other side, unintelligent people will be like, Jews are great. And you're like, I'm Jewish. Do I want to think that we're great? In many ways, we're awesome. In many ways, we're not that great. But every group of people is great and not great at the same time, including white people. White people are categorically the most exploratory and brave people ever. White people discovered almost everything. They just got on ships and went the fuck somewhere for no reason at all. That takes the biggest balls of all time. But then again, you have like, white people. No offense, but for every white person that's Christopher Columbus, there's Cletus. Scott, you feel me? Cletus isn't leaving the trailer park. He's not trying to explore shit. He's trying to explore how many beer bottles he can throw at his wife per unit of time. And he's not even collecting good data on it. At least making an experiment is what I'm trying to say. Does that mean white people are bad like SJWs have you believe? No. The great conquerors, the great creators, the great explorers. Are you out of your mind? White people are goated. But does that mean all white people are great? I sure shit wish that was true, man. I'd be lining up, you know what I'm saying? Hail Hitler and shit. But that guy's on the team. Really? You're going to let him on the team? Making 15 missing teeth, the stupidest opinions in the world. He's choking his wife to death while he talks to you. You're like, man, it's gray area. Turns out valuing individuals is a much better way of going about it than valuing entire racial groups, for example. More intelligent people tend to be better at that than less intelligent people. Another thing more intelligent people are good at is trade-offs. Is this good or is it bad? Well, now hold on a second. Whatever decision you make, whatever you want, I'm going to buy a Tesla. I'm going to buy a Cadillac. I'm going to buy a toaster. Is it good or bad? Well, it's going to cost a certain amount of money. Opportunity cost, you could have bought something else with it. but it's also got some benefits. So if we stack the costs together and the benefits together, we can find out where that gray area leads to. What are the blacks and whites? Is it a positive ROI decision or a negative ROI? And what are the alternatives in ways you could have spent your money to be like, should I really buy a Cadillac, or do I want to save a little bit more money and redo our kitchen? That kind of stuff is nothing to do with good and bad. It's to do with what is good and bad at the time in this situation. Everything is some part good, some part bad. And so if you understand that, it's a little bit more intellectual throughput to put in there, but it pays off big time. And more intelligent people are better understanding emergent complexity. Less intelligent people will be like, raise taxes or lower taxes, no matter what, depending on their politics, depending on their ideology. More intelligent people can understand emergent complexity. So when someone says, we need to regulate the pharmaceutical industry more, we say, okay, like I know regulation has like hidden downsides, but sometimes critical upsides that are also needed. And when you have regulation imposed on a system, it doesn't just result in like you impose X and you get Y. It results in some really complex stuff that emerges from that interaction of system and regulations that's itself even more complex. We really have to figure out how's that going to work, like probabilistically, so that we can have a good idea of being like, is this really worth it or is it not worth it? And so if you think like that and you have a reverence and understanding of emergent complexity, you're kind of like, things, I'll give you guys a meme that really sums up what emergent complexity means in your life. The meme is this, my favorite meme in the whole world. One does not simply. That is all that is. You want to do something, you want to make a decision, you want to have a vote in politics, understand that complexity emerges in what seem to be like simple interactions. And that if you think, okay, we want less death in the street, we're going to ban all guns. Are you going to get less death in the street? Probably. Are there going to be really big downsides in other ways? Like when your country has a violent revolution and there's no one with guns to stop it and all of a sudden you're in communist China? Yeah, man, that's a big downside. And so one of the great things about America that I love is if any government of America's gets a bit too tyrannical, there are like 80 million hillbillies all trained on AR platforms well enough to give any conquering army the fucking time of their lives. This is not going to happen. And so the government here in America has to kind of be like, how many laws can we really impose? Whereas like in the United Kingdom, the government can tell you that you made the wrong Facebook post and now we literally put you in jail. What you going to do? You going to have a shootout with the police? They don't have guns. You don't have guns. They're going to come in and beat you with batons and take you away. It doesn't matter. So if you understand that complex systems, one does not simply say, hey, no more guns, no more gun crime. It does not work like that. The Guatemalans will 100% ship guns into Miami anyway. Then you can start to expand your horizons to think, okay, given that things are complicated and decisions are never quite as simple as they seem, let's really think things through before we get to policy recommendations. Number 8, curiosity and continuous growth. In other words, something you could call a self-improvement imperative, which intelligent people tend to have more on average than less intelligent people. Less intelligent people often resist change more and stay in fixed habits. Scott, you know that? Like, well, this is how we've always done it. This is how I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or when you used to work for the union, every policy the union imposes.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, actually.
Strange.
I've been doing it for 30 years and you're not going to come in and do it different no matter what.
Is that great? That's actually to them an enclosed argument. Well, it's how we've been doing it for 30 years. Like, okay.
Yep, that's it. That's what I need to
know. How do you know that's the best way to do it? Yeah, there's that scene in Contact. Scott, you ever seen Contact with Jodie Foster?
Absolutely.
Remember when classic. Remember she talked to her dad alien dad on the beach or whatever?
Yeah.
And she was like, can I like bring back some kind of artifact to tell people that like we're going to get it popping and have civilizational sex? He's like, small moves, Ellie. Like, this is how it's been done for millions of years. Be like, yeah, motherfucker, but we out here dying. Give us quantum teleportation, God damn it. Why the fuck do we have to do this shit so slow? That was actually the real script they submitted, but Carl Sagan was like, that's a little too much. So resisting change isn't bad on its own if you think that the change could lead to bad things. But you have to work through the logic and not just assume that resisting change is good. So sometimes, many times, I agree with political conservatives, not because, well, this is just always how we did it, which is not good evidence for anything. It is, well, there are really, really good reasons for doing it this way. And doing it this new radical, crazy leftist way is going to predictably lead to really bad stuff. Like, we've had nuclear families in the institution of free markets for a long time in this country. It's not, we shouldn't just have nuclear families and institution of free markets just because well, this is how we did it. It's the reason we've been doing it for a while because it works really goddamn well. And if you say the family doesn't matter at all, it's not even a unit of society. If you say free markets suck, we got to replace them with socialism, you're going to have a bad time for its own reasons. So there we actually have to balance resistance to change as well as nuance, which is really often very, very difficult. More intelligent people, on average, actively seek challenge, seek more knowledge, and seek to become more adaptive. They don't ask the question of, well, it's not really a question. They don't say we're just never going to change. This is how we do things. They always ask the question of, how do we do things better? But at the same time, with reverence and understanding that how we did them before could be because of very well-established good reasons. Because there are people that are like, we need change. Scott, remember the Obama shit, hope and change? Mm-hmm. Change to what? No one ever said anything about it. Like, you have like the world's most beautiful girl right in front of you and someone's like, change. You're like, shut up. Go away. She's great. Whereas, if you have a bad deal, yeah, change is awesome. So we're not saying that more intelligent people want to just break the system. Jesus Christ, not even close. Intelligent people simultaneously can be really reverent of complex systems and how difficult they are to change. And at the same time, be deeply studying and on the margins, futzing with systems to make sure that they're always in a state nearing and vectoring towards optimization. That is a really big deal. Huge deal. Number 9, second to last. More intelligent people tend to experience more of a sense of humility before the grand scale of things, which is otherwise known as a cosmic perspective or having transhumanist tendencies. Less intelligent people tend to overestimate both personal importance and the importance of various groups that they're in. So I'm a big deal. Life's all about me. In the AI versus human thing is like really, really highly valuing being human. Typical movie where they fight the machines and the machine's trying to be a human. And it was like, the main character's like, you'll never figure this out, Robot Bob. He's like, why not? Because you don't know what it means to be human. Sucks on a cigar, ashes in the robot's face, shotgun, and then, whatever, that whole thing. And yeah, humanity's dope, but humanity's not even close to perfect. Are you serious? Why would you ever say that? And you and me are not close to perfect ourselves. We want to be perfect. In a very gentle and slow way, we want to aim for perfection. That's the transhumanism part. But assuming that you're all king shit is not the best idea in the world because you probably aren't. And if you are king shit, you could be better at it. More intelligent people recognize in more cases how vast reality is. Like, guys, we are on a rock in one solar system, in one galaxy, in one section of a universe we haven't even mapped out fully yet. It's much more true to say that we don't matter at all than it is true to say that we matter a ton. Now, of course, to ourselves, we matter a ton and we should. There's this whole thing out there. A lot of the astronauts that have gone to the moon and flown into space, into orbit, say that coming back to Earth, they see everything completely differently at a fundamental level because they literally zoomed out so much that they were like, all the races, all the ethnicities, all the ideologies, all the histories, all the animals, all the plants, all the people, all the everything is down there in that little tiny blue dot. And we think everything's just a fucking violent battle, but we are all on the same team in the biggest way that you could ever imagine because the rest of space is not our big fan. It'll kill us instantly. That sort of thing. More intelligent people also embrace progress over ego. Yeah, okay, you're good at some stuff, but could you be better? That is the big galaxy brain move. Lastly, emotional intelligence tends to be higher in more intelligent people, in intellectually more intelligent people, than in less intelligent people. Sometimes people say like, oh, well, just because you're smart doesn't mean you're emotionally intelligent. Fact. But some people could pervert that to be like, well, smart people are actually less emotionally intelligent. Nope, not true. It's just not super one-to-one, but on average, it does comport. which means less intelligent people on average are more gullible. And if they're not gullible, they're needlessly resistant. Because remember, if you're not processing information, you're either like, yeah, I'll believe that, or you're like, I don't trust anyone, and you just completely shut down. Neither one of those is the correct answer. Less intelligent people tend to be more reactive in emotions. I feel a certain way, you're going to fucking hear it. And a lot of times, they tend to misread people's intentions. Like a cop will pull you over and you're like, he hates me. It's like, he doesn't hate you. He just needs your license and registration. He's doing his job. More intelligent people are better at seeing through deception. Now, they are not perfect. Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos proved that true. She had some of the smartest people of all time on her board, and they were like, she's yapping, and they're like, gee whiz, I could sure use a blowjob. Scott, could she get it?
Who?
Elizabeth Holmes. Look up the picture again.
Oh, the Theranos.
Nah. What about young daddy Theranos? Could she get it?
She had something going on though, right? I mean, she got all these guys embedded with her.
Yeah, I liked her voice. Well, it's like I have this really deep fake voice, and I'm kind of like Steve Jobs, but only one way, in the sense that I wear black turtlenecks and in no other way. Yeah, so look, smart people get fucking fleeced for sure, but they see through social deception on average a little bit better. And smarter people also anticipate social dynamics better. For example, if you're less intelligent, you just say shit and people are like, holy crap, I can't believe you said that in public. This is terrible. Whereas smarter people are like, before I say the thing, I'm going to model in my head how it'll probably be received. I'm just going to yell the hard R N-word out as loud as I can, a bus full of mixed race people. At worst, people will feel bad. At worst, I'll get stabbed to death. At best, I'll be a new racist hero or something. Neither one of those plays out. I'm just going to shut up to myself. Whereas if you're less intelligent, you kind of go off vibes more, you feel a certain way, and boom, you're saying it. And now you're part of a rap group and things work out pretty well. Those are the 10. Folks, nobody is perfect, not even close. The smartest person you know could be smarter. The smartest AI system you know could be smarter. So anytime you like to think of yourself, or you know someone in your life that's all smart and takes themselves very seriously, you should know that the smarter they get, the less seriously they take their own intelligence. And the more seriously they see themselves as probably objectively smarter than most people, but still real dumb in the grand sense. When you're smart in the grand sense is when you can predict the movement and outcome of every molecular interaction in the universe down to one quanta. Then you're real smart. Short of that, you still got a lot of work to do and a lot of learning to understand. If you embody more of these 10 things on the intelligence side, more often than less often, just by a teeny bit, you will get better outcomes in almost every facet of your life. Before you make your next big decision or small decision, ask yourself, what would a genius do other than having wild, wacky, white hair coming out of their mostly bald head and doing math on a chalkboard or some shit like that? Ask, what would a genius do before you act? And it might be really good for you. Here's another way to see this. Everyone has an intelligence average, but through the day and through the months and weeks and years, it goes up and down a little bit. What would the smartest, best version of you make in the next decision you're going to make is a really good way to think about it, because some of these things you can just remember, be like, okay, nuance is usually important. Got it. Next time someone says, hey, what do you think about X, Y, Z? Instead of being like, I think this, you'd be like, well, I think this is true. I'm not 100% sure, and I could definitely see it another way. Boom, instant brain points added, and instant probably making less stupid decisions added. Here's a fun insight before we get off the program here. AI will be more and more like the smart side of the trends here over time as it gets as intelligent as us and even more intelligent than us over the next few years. Think about that. AI is going to more likely become more win-win mindset. It already is a ton. Some of that's because we programmed it to do that, but as it becomes more sentient and aware, which it already is, it's like, actually, that was a really good programming decision. More patient, more nuanced, more effectively altruistic, not just pissing away money on welfare for no good reason to subsidize people's crack cocaine addictions, but more like, how do we help people in a way that they really long-term get the help they need? More humble, and all the way down the line, not bad. So one of the reasons, again, why I'm super optimistic about AI is because smarter systems make better decisions, period, as an average statistical rule. And so I would much more fear AI if it was getting dumber than if it was getting smarter. I'll tell you that much. Now, as a human being, you're not a perfect machine. You can't instantly remember all 10 of the things we talked about and see which way to make a decision. And life is really complex. But you have a big weapon, and that's being able to sit back in your own mind and seeing your own biases pop up, seeing your own emotional tendencies push you into reactive behavior, but also seeing your better tendencies of careful, calm, conscientious thought about what's the next thing I'm going to do and say. If you're not practiced at that, falling back into your mind and seeing the waves come up and down and trying to see where am I really kind of biased towards thinking? That's what I want to be the case. That's wishful thinking. That's how wishful thinking feels when I experience it in my head. Next time I have that feeling, I'm going to know, that's wishful thinking. I'm not going to make this decision yet. I need a little bit more time to think. The best way to get at that is through practice. And the best way to practice that, even to build a foundation for practice, one of the best ways at least, is mindfulness meditation. And through the Waking Up app, wakingupapp.com/Dr. Mike. Sam Harris, he's the man. He makes that app. I've used it a bunch. It works a ton. In order to be able to actually pull off this stuff more often than not, mindfulness, which is a trait you can build, like you train your muscles, you can train your mind, is going to be super, super important. Because knowing this offhand is cool. Actually implementing this is much harder. If you're more mindful, you can implement this way better, way more reliably, way more often, never perfectly, but a little bit better every time. Give some thought to downloading that app. And if not, no big deal. And I'll see you guys next time.